morning, everyone. Good evening, and good afternoon to viewers from all walks of life. This is Denzimus, and you're welcome to the channel of truth, enlightenment, freedom, and the channel of breaking empath free. If you are new on this channel, I talk about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. I talk about spirituality, and I talk about personal and self-development. And if any of that resonates with you, I invite you guys to join us. Give us a like, share the video with friends, and you may subscribe if you haven't already. And for those that have always been with us, you are welcome back, and I thank you for your love and support. Now, it takes a whole different level of healing for someone to understand that when the narcissist discards you, it is actually, they're giving you a free ticket to go ahead and live your best life. And at the same time, it takes a whole healed individual to understand that actually, when you have left the narcissist and they are no longer part of you, they are no longer in your life, maybe you guys have discarded them or they have discarded you. It can be either way. It is actually also better to understand that you are not actually missing out on anything. So you see, the problem is that most of the guys who are living narcissists, most of the times people are confused, because when you live in the narcissist, a lot of guys, the reason why they keep on getting sucked back into those kind of relationships, that is because they have got something in the subconscious mind telling them that actually they're missing out on anything. You know what I mean? Most of the times you will see the narcissists, when you leave them, they'll go and meet somebody new, and then all of a sudden you will see them flashing all their new boyfriends and their new girlfriends on the social media. They'll put their, their new partners on the Facebooks and whatever social media. So they want everybody, the whole world, to see exactly what it is they have going on with their lives. And most of the times, a lot of victims of narcissistic abuse, because they don't know this trick and how it works. So a lot of guys, they are thinking actually they're missing out on anything. So those narcissists, they are doing that thing on purpose. But I want to tell you something important in this video, guys. Everything you see the narcissist displaying on the social media platforms, on whatever it is, even sometimes you might even sometimes have to see it physically. Whatever you see the narcissist displaying is an act. So that is the same act that the narcissist displayed when they met you in the beginning, the very first time they met you. That is the same act they pulled. They came into your life, they love bombed you, and then they started to show all around on their social media platforms and everything, and their neighbors, what exactly they have going on in their lives. And most of the times, the people they're trying to show to prove a point, those are the individuals who have known them actually for some time, for some good time. And sometimes, even the narcissists, they're hitting back on their exes. So, there is no reason for you to believe that you're missing out on anything. The narcissist is following a certain pattern. There is a pattern they follow, and that pattern they can never break out. It does not matter how much they try and how much they want to, they can never break out of that pattern. So they will keep on doing something. The same thing they have done to you is the same thing they did with their ex. And the same thing they did with that ex, the same thing they do with the previous ex and the future people to come. So with the narcissist, there is nothing spontaneous whereby you think that they're just going to wake up all of a sudden one day and they're doing something, something is in order, they are doing things accurately, in order and everything. The narcissist, they're following a pattern, and that pattern, they can never break out of it. So most of the time, the victims get confused when they're leaving narcissists behind, or sometimes when those guys, they are discard you or things like that. Let me tell you something, guys. The very moment the narcissist discards you, or you discard the narcissist, you have just won the jackpot. You have actually won the jackpot that is going to take you to the next level of your life. You're going to discover that actually, those individuals in the first place, they never deserved you. So you are going to start living your best life. It is going to take a lot of work, of course. It's going to take a lot of work for you to understand this, and it's going to take a whole new level of healing for you to understand that actually you're going to start living your best life at some point. You're going to enjoy each and every single day as you wake up, as you spend your day. You're going to enjoy each and every move you make without the narcissist. Those individuals, they're leaving you for a very big reason. They're not leaving you because there's anything wrong with you, you've done something wrong, or you've messed up, or something like that. It can even sometimes appear like the case that you have messed up, but most of the times it's all about manipulation. They want to make you believe that you are the one who has messed up, because you see at the discard, you're going to see these narcissists, they're going to come around and they tell you, oh, you know that 2 years ago you did this and that, 3 years ago you did this and that, 5 years ago you did. They're going to remind you all these kind of things that you did and didn't do. Most of the times, because they're finding an excuse to get themselves out of that entanglement or whatever situationship, because at that moment A narcissist is following the pattern, and that pattern has reached that point whereby the devaluation stage has got to happen, and eventually they are supposed to discard their subjects. So it is not only you that they're discarding, they have already discarded a very long line of victims before you. But what you have to understand something is very, very important for you to understand that the narcissist, whatever it is the pattern they are following, whatever pattern they are following, whatever road they decide to take, the narcissist is going to, at some point in time, self-destruct. So most of the times the narcissists, they sabotage themselves. You know what I mean? The narcissist, you guys may not already know it, but the narcissists usually, they actually destroy very, very good people. You know what I mean? Number one, I did a video before and I told you guys, the narcissists, they target the best. If you're going to see the people that are dating narcissists, a lot of those individuals, they're prominent people, very, very important people in society, most of them very talented people, gifted people, you know what I mean, rich people. The narcissists, they target the best. Because the better the supply is, the better for them. You know what I mean? So the narcissists will not go for low level people, you know what I mean? People who have nothing going on in their lives. Well, they may have nothing going on in their lives, but as long as they know that there is something they can pick up from them, they're going to go for those individuals. The narcissists target the best, that is true. But also the narcissists, they destroy the best. So when you see the long list of lines, the long line of victims that the narcissists, that get involved with the narcissists, and at the end of the day, you see those individuals, you're going to notice that actually those individuals, most of the times, the narcissists, they have met very, very nice, beautiful people, and at the same time, they have also destroyed very nice, beautiful people. So the narcissists, whatever they are doing, it is going to lead them to a path of self-destruction, and they cannot stop it. It doesn't matter how wealthy they are. It doesn't matter what businesses they're running. It does not matter what mortgages they hold. It doesn't matter what car they drive. Guys, I've told you something that you're supposed to separate the truth and the truth or the reality from the illusion. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you're dealing with an illusion. You know what I mean? So there is no truth. There has never been a truth in the first place. So there's no truth with that situationship. Everything you see in front of you is an illusion. They will put up a show. They will drive big cars, they will sleep in big houses, they will wear the best clothes. It does not matter what you see in front of you. Let me tell you something. In a couple of years down the road, the narcissist is going to reach a point, at some point, those individuals, they're going to self-destruct. They are going to self-sabotage. They are going to sabotage. Number one, they will sabotage their relationships. I've told you guys already that they meet very, very nice, beautiful people, beautiful souls. They go into their lives, those situationships, and they destroy those individuals to the ground. They drop them off, they go to the next one. They drop them off, they go to the next one. So that kind of cycle, it keeps on going on and on until they reach a point whereby now, it has reached a point whereby they have got to face themselves in the mirror. Because at a certain point in time, the narcissist is going to reach a point whereby they're going to look at themselves in the mirror. You know what I mean? It's like some kind of a judgment day whereby they're going to be able, they may not really want to do it, but they will have to actually look at themselves in the mirror and figure out what is it exactly they have been doing to people. Most of the times at that point is the time whereby they have become old. You know what I mean? So it's like they can no longer hold that mask in place. They're aging, and because like you said, like I told you guys before, that usually as the narcissist ages, also that those kind of patterns, they become very obvious because the people who are around them in that time when they're aging, when they become older, you know, when they reach old age, they also hit rock bottom most of the times because remember, they're aging as well. So they can no longer get the same supply they used to get. They can no longer manipulate people they used to do it because now everything is becoming very obvious. Over time, they have done it over and over again, and it's like it has reached a point whereby now their games, they are very easy to spot. You know what I mean? When you meet those individuals, you will just know straight away that those individuals, there's something wrong with them. They're toxic, whatever, because everything is going to become obvious. So normally the narcissists, they tend to self-sabotage at some point. So for a lot of you guys who live with the narcissist and you think, what are you going to do with yourself? You know what I mean? When are those guys going to get their karma? You know, sometimes you want to revenge or the things like that. Let me tell you something, guys. If I was in that kind of energy at some point earlier on, we're talking about more than 2.5 years ago. If I was in that kind of energy, whereby I would be sitting down there and feeling sorry for myself because I left the narcissist, you know what I mean? We're no longer together, and then I'm just supposed to be there and reminiscing and thinking and thinking about revenge and trying to look back at whatever it is they're doing. Let me tell you something. That is exactly where they want you to be. So most of the times you are thinking that you are really missing out on anything. You are not missing out on nothing. You know what I mean? So those individuals, the path that they've decided to take and the channel that they've decided to follow, that channel is always, it does not matter what. Let me tell you something, guys. It doesn't matter what country they are coming from. It does not matter the color of their skin. It does not matter who they are. It does not matter how rich they are. Let me tell you something. it is always going to reach that point whereby they're going to hit rock bottom. You know what I mean? And most of the times, I'll guarantee you that most of the narcissists, when you see them, especially at the old age, at that point whereby they hit rock bottom and they have almost like lost everything, because you guys have had stories about people who all of a sudden they go bankrupt. You know what I mean? They've been millionaires running big businesses. You know what I mean? Doing this and that, but all of a sudden they have gone bankrupt. Sometimes if you've heard about people, they have sold their cars, they have sold their houses, they have lost everything. A lot of guys, even sometimes you hear people, they have usually ended up in hospitals in very difficult critical conditions. So most of the times, society will not tell you that actually you are dealing with narcissists. Most of the time, those individuals, the only thing the society and mainstream media is forgetting to put on the top is that actually most of those individuals, they are narcissists. They are actually in self-destruction mode. You know what I mean? So they'll write about things like, you'll see articles like, oh, somebody went bankrupt, they declared themselves bankrupt or things like that. But a lot of times they are not actually putting it on the top that those particular individuals they're talking about, they are narcissists actually. Those are narcissists going through a self-sabotage or a self-destruction stage. You know what I mean? So that is exactly when they hit rock bottom. And most of the times that's when you see they will now start running up and down, trying to go around, look for their old supplies. You know what I mean? Because I've told you guys, most of the times the narcissists, when they notice that they're hitting rock bottom, they're going to look through the long chain of their victims, and then they're going to spot which is the most beneficial victim. They can always, even sometimes, go back, even if they hit rock bottom, which of their victims is always going to take them back. So they will look in their long list and they will point out one of their victims, and they will usually try to hover that victim, because normally the victim that the narcissist hovers, those are the victims which usually have always provided a heavily significant amount of supply to them. So that's when you see them when they're falling down, when they're going down and hitting rock bottom. That's when you see them, they try to hover the supplies for particular reasons, because there is some supplies who know them in a certain way. You know what I mean? And who have always tried to provide a significant amount of fuel in a certain way that has been extremely beneficial for the narcissist. So that's why you see them hovering the supply. They don't just hover in a supply. Those narcissists, they're not stupid. They're not really stupid. They will not just go around and hover any supply. So they will pinpoint which supply do they need to take in, because depending on their needs at that moment. But normally, when you see a narcissist hitting rock bottom, they are going to go back and look for the best supply that they have ever had, and that's the supply they are going to usually go back and hover most of the times, because they need somebody to bring them back up, to bring them back to life. You know what I mean? So it is not in your duty to think that when you've left a narcissist, you should be. I know it takes a lot. Like I've said in the beginning of this video, it takes a lot of work and a lot of healing to understand this. But at some point, you can get there, and you will know that the narcissist is actually doing you a very big favor by discarding you and getting themselves out of your life. So you don't have to worry about what is going to happen to them. You don't have to worry about who they are dating. You know what I mean? Don't look around and try to see who they are dating. You know, sometimes they will try to show you they bought a new house, they bought a new car, the things like that. I'll tell you something, that when you understand who a narcissist is, the very moment you understand and you snap out of this narcissism and you understand it for what it is, you understand those vampires for who they are, that is exactly when you're going to know that actually even the discard is now going to start working out in your favor. You know what I mean? And the narcissists, they don't want you to know that. So most of the times when they're discarding you, they make it very, very painful for you, because remember, there's also trauma bond involved. So they make it very painful for you, and they want to confuse you in your mind for you to think that actually you are going to be missing out on a lot. That's the reason why they stage up all these kind of illusions. You know what I mean? Illusions on their social media and everything, in their neighborhoods. All of a sudden, they're going to buy a new car, they'll buy a new house, new clothes, everything. So they'll try to put up a very, very big image that they're living their best lives. But I can guarantee you that down the road, and I know exactly what I'm talking about, I can guarantee you that down the road, those individuals, they're going to end in the pit. Whatever it is, the path they're deciding to take, and whichever victim it is, it does not matter. Guys, let me tell you something. It does not matter who the victim is. It does not matter who they are and what status they hold in society. It doesn't matter who it is. The narcissist is enclosed and trapped in this kind of a cycle. And that kind of cycle, it is very, very deep within their mind, and they can never break out of it. You know what I mean? So they will always go like that in circles. They will abuse people. They will destroy people. They will manipulate people. They will do everything, whatever it is they want. But at the end of the day, I can guarantee you this, that when the narcissist reaches self-destruction mode, when I'm talking about self-destruction, I'm also talking about self-sabotage. because all the good things they have ever have in their life, they will ever have in their life, or they have ever had in their life, they have already lost everything. So it is not by you losing the narcissist. Actually, the narcissist, by discarding you, they are losing you. You're not losing them, they are losing you. You know what I mean? They're the ones losing out on you. They are going out to new supplies, but at the same time, they are going to also dump those supplies. They're going to go to the next one. So those individuals, they can never jump out of that cycle. That cycle is unbreakable. The only time they can get out of that cycle is when they reach their deathbed and they actually pass on. That is exactly when the cycle is going to break permanently. So you don't have the power to interrupt that cycle. You have just been a part of, you as a victim of narcissistic abuse, you've just been a person that they've met along their journey and made you a part of them, so that you can now participate in that kind of cycle, sick cycle that they've been following for a very big chunk of their lives. So you've just intercepted their cycle, you've interrupted that cycle, and you've been a part of their victim, their chain of victims. When you're out, the next victim comes in, and at the end of the day, those narcissists, they are going to lose everything. They will lose all their supplies, the best supplies they've ever had. Most of the times, they lose their money, they will lose their health, they will lose their mortgages, they will lose their cars, they will lose everything. Because they are not programmed, they're not conditioned to actually follow up on whatever it is they're doing and hold on to whatever it is they're doing. It does not matter how precious it is. Let me tell you something. A narcissist, it doesn't matter how precious and how beautiful they have something going on in their hands. In their hands, they will see it, they will hold it, they will hold the treasure in their hands. In front of them, very beautiful people, beautiful souls, prominent people, they will hold the biggest treasure they have never had in their entire lives. But most of the times, let me tell you something, because those individuals, they don't know how to maintain relationships, people, things, and places. You know, most of the times, whatever it is they get, it just comes to that point whereby it just starts to get boring, and they just start to destroy whatever it is they got going on in their lives. You know what I mean? So they destroy everything, and it has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? So normally healing, when you're talking about narcissism, healing starts by educating yourself. So you listen to the guys, the coaches around the world. There are so many of them. They teach you things that they have seen, the experience that they have had. Some people decide to go to therapy, although I was not one of them. But most of the times, the number one stage to healing is educating yourself. You are going to know and fit up all the puzzles, because remember, you've been spending a very good number of years. You've been asking yourself a lot of questions and you've never had the answers. But at this point, you come to that point whereby you now start to educate yourself. The more you educate yourself is the more you get enlightened. And the more you get enlightened is the more you break out of those trauma bonds. You know what I mean? So you're going to notice that any more you get knowledge, the more knowledge you get on a daily basis, especially when you've left those individuals, the more knowledge you get about narcissistic abuse and what you've been going through, is the more enlightened you get. And the more enlightened you get is the more actually you break out of that trauma bond. You know what I mean? So you just start going to release those individuals emotionally, one by one, step by step, of course, because I've told you guys in my videos that sometimes the trauma bond, it takes a lot of time to work on. It's a work in progress. You know what I mean? To break a trauma bond takes a lot of time. So let those individuals self-sabotage, and you let them self-destruct. When they have left you or you have left them, you go out there, you focus. Number one, guys, every video I make on this channel, I've told you to focus on your healing process. Your healing process is the one which is going to open up the doors for you to start living your best life, but not with the narcissist. You know what I mean? Because they are supposed to get out of the vicinity and out of your life, so that you can be able now to dig into who you are, who you really are, get yourself back together and live your best life. And do not accept them for whichever reason to go down with you, because remember, those individuals, they're so broken that actually they want to take somebody along with them. You know what I mean? So they want to destroy. That's why you see they have a very long line of victims in their lives. They keep on destroying people because they want to drag a long line of victims, and somebody has got to go down the road and get destroyed with them. So they want to take somebody with them on the path of destruction, and let that not be you. So if this video makes sense, guys, let's know what you think about this. You can always book a session with me, guys. Donate and support to this cause. Somewhere on that line, you will see my links to the PayPal and the Cashapp. You can always donate and support to this cause. All this love will be appreciated. And until then, I'll be back in touch with you in the next one. Much love and blessings, and have a beautiful one. There's more signing out. Peace.